In Act 1, Scene 1 of The Merchant of Venice, on the streets of Venice, two Venetian merchants, Salarino and Salanio, notice that their friend Antonio has been out of sorts lately. Antonio has sent several ships abroad to trade goods in many ports, so his friends decide that he must have overextended his fortunes in shaky investments. They describe how anxious they would be if they were similarly invested in the fates of so many ships, keeping track of every little change in the winds and weather until their fortunes returned to port. Antonio tells Salarino and Salanio that his investments are diverse enough to protect him from loss. So the two men then speculate that Antonio must be acting the way he is because he is in love, which Antonio denies. Salarino and Salanio attempt to raise Antonio's spirits, but they are soon interrupted by the arrival of three other friends, Bassanio, Gratiano, and Lorenzo. Salarino and Salanio leave to attend to their own business. Just like Salarino and Salanio before him, Gratiano observes Antonio's sad disposition and takes it upon himself to play the fool and cheer him up, and he cautions Antonio not to wallow in his melancholy. Gratiano and Lorenzo also depart, promising to return at dinner time. Once he and Bassanio are alone, Antonio asks about Bassanio's recent visit to an unnamed woman, which prompts Bassanio to first describe the extent of his personal debt before telling Antonio about the woman who lives at Belmont and whom he wishes to court. Bassanio asks Antonio to lend him money so he can appear wealthy and compete with the woman's other suitors. Antonio tells Bassanio that his money is occupied in his ships at sea, but generously gives Bassanio permission to borrow the sum elsewhere on his credit. Act 1, Scene 1 sets up the elements of Antonio's reality, or his perception of reality, that will become the source of all of his problems in the play. The first source of Antonio's troubles is his confidence in his investments. The risky nature of Antonio's business choices is common knowledge among his friends. Antonio maintains that he has nothing to worry about, that he has not staked all his hopes on a single venture, so even if one of the ventures fails, he will still remain solvent. The permission to borrow reveals the second cause of Antonio's problems, his unflinching devotion to Bassanio. By his own admission, Bassanio owes massive debts all over Venice, including to Antonio. In his explanation of his decision to marry, Bassanio mentions his debts and Portia's wealth repeatedly. Bassanio may genuinely love Portia, but it is undeniable that his marriage to a lady richly left will improve his financial situation considerably. Whether Antonio's devotion stems from a sense of paternal or romantic affection is not clear, and has been subject to different interpretations in performances, but it is clear that Antonio's love for Bassanio seemingly has no limits.